The orc girl gritted her teeth and forced herself to stand straighter, willing the searing pain in her side to disappear as she hefted another fallen branch onto the growing pile of firewood. But the world tilted sideways for just a moment before she caught herself against the rough bark of a pine tree. Kara had been pretending for 3 days now that the wound was nothing, just a scratch from the ambush that had scattered what remained of her clan across the northern mountains. 3 days since the human soldiers had attacked their camp at dawn. 3 days since she had taken a sword thrust meant for her younger brother and watched him disappear into the forest while she held off their pursuers. 3 days of walking through unfamiliar territory with nothing but the clothes on her back and a stolen knife tucked into her belt. She pressed her palm against her ribs, feeling the wet warmth that had been slowly spreading beneath her rough spun shirt. The fabric stuck to her skin now, heavy and dark. She knew what that meant. Knew that she should have cleaned the wound properly, found herbs to pack it, rested instead of pushing forward mile after mile through the wilderness. But rest meant being found, and being found meant death for an orc this far into human lands. The farmhouse she had been watching from the tree line for the past hour sat quiet in the late afternoon sun, smoke rising from its chimney in a lazy spiral. Fields of winter wheat stretched out on either side, and she could see a barn, a chicken coop, a well with a wooden bucket. One human, as far as she could tell. A man who had spent the morning mending a fence and was now splitting wood near the barn with steady, practiced swings of his axe. Kara needed water, needed bandages, needed to stop moving before her legs gave out entirely. She had been avoiding all human settlements since fleeing the mountains, but her options had run out somewhere around the 2nd day when fever had started creeping into her bones. This isolated farm was the first place she had seen in hours that looked like it might have supplies, and the single occupant seemed less dangerous than a village full of people who would raise an alarm the moment they spotted her green skin. The man set down his axe and wiped his brow with his forearm, then headed toward the house. Kara waited until he disappeared inside before making her move, stumbling from the tree line toward the well. Her vision swam with each step, black spots dancing at the edges. Just get water. Just enough to keep going. She had barely reached the well when the door of the farmhouse opened again. "You there?" "Stop." Kara spun, hand going to her knife, and immediately regretted the sudden movement as pain exploded through her torso. She steadied herself against the stone rim of the well, trying to focus on the man striding toward her across the yard. He was tall for a human, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that curled slightly at his collar and eyes the color of stormy seas. Mid-20s, she guessed, though humans aged differently than orcs and she had never been good at telling. He wore simple clothes, a work shirt and trousers stained with soil and wood shavings, but he moved with a confidence that made her think of soldiers. "I do not want trouble," Kara said, proud that her voice came out steady despite the way the ground seemed to be tilting beneath her feet. "Just water. Then I will go." The man stopped a dozen paces away, his hand resting on something at his belt, a knife, probably, or a small axe. His eyes widened slightly as he took in her appearance, the green skin and small tusks that marked her as orc, the pointed ears and the way she stood with feral readiness despite clearly being injured. "You are hurt," he said, and there was something in his tone that was not quite what she expected. Not fear or hatred, but something closer to concern. "I am fine." Kara straightened, fighting to keep the pain from showing on her face. "The water. May I take some, or will you make me fight for it?" He studied her for a long moment, and she could see him weighing options, calculating risks. Then his gaze dropped to her side and his expression changed. "You are bleeding through your shirt." Kara glanced down and cursed inwardly. The dark stain had spread, visible now even through the brown fabric. So much for hiding it. "It is nothing," she said, but even as the words left her mouth, the world decided it had had enough of her stubbornness. Her knees buckled and she grabbed for the well to keep from falling, her vision going white with pain. She felt hands catch her before she hit the ground, strong and careful, and then she was being lifted like she weighed nothing. She tried to struggle, to push away, but her body would not cooperate anymore. "Put me down," she managed to say, but it came out weak, not the fierce command she had intended. "Not a chance," the man replied, and he was moving, carrying her across the yard toward the farmhouse. "You will bleed out if that wound is not treated. You should let me. I am Orc, enemy." "You are injured. That makes you someone who needs help." Kara wanted to argue, wanted to demand he release her, but consciousness was slipping away like water through her fingers. The last thing she registered before darkness took her was the smell of bread baking and the surprising gentleness with which he laid her down on something soft. When she woke, the light had changed. Evening sun slanted through a window, painting everything in shades of amber and gold. She was lying on a bed, an actual bed with a mattress and blankets, in a small room with whitewashed walls and simple furnishings. Her shirt was gone, replaced by clean bandages wrapped around her ribs, and she could smell herbs, the sharp scent of something antiseptic. Kara sat up slowly, testing her body. The pain was still there but dulled, manageable. Someone had cleaned and dressed her wound properly, and the fever that had been building felt like it had broken. Her knife lay on a table beside the bed within easy reach. He had not taken her weapon. She stood on unsteady legs and made her way to the door, pulling it open to find herself looking into a main room that served as kitchen and living area. The man was there, stirring something in a pot over the fire. He glanced up when she appeared and gestured to a chair near the table. "Sit before you fall over again. You helped me." It came out more accusatory than she intended. "Yes." "Why?" He ladled something into a bowl and brought it to the table. Soup, thick with vegetables and chunks of meat. The smell made her stomach clench with hunger. "Because you needed help," he said simply. "Eat. You have lost blood and need to rebuild your strength." Kara remained standing, watching him warily. "You know what I am. You should have killed me or turned me over to your authorities." "Probably." He pulled out a chair and sat down across from where he had placed the bowl. "But I am not in the habit of killing injured people who ask for water. I am Caleb Garrison, and this is my farm. You are welcome to stay until you are healed enough to travel safely." She stared at him, trying to understand the trap, to see the angle, but his expression was open, honest in a way that made no sense. "I am Kara," she said finally. "I have no clan name anymore. Just Kara, then." He nodded toward the bowl again. "Please eat. I did not go to all that trouble patching you up just to have you collapse from hunger." Her stomach made the decision for her. She sat and picked up the spoon, taking a cautious taste. It was good, simple but well made, seasoned with herbs she did not recognize. She ate slowly at first, then faster as her body reminded her that she had barely eaten in days. Caleb watched her for a moment, then stood and moved back to the fire, giving her space. "The wound was infected," he said, his back to her. "I cleaned it and packed it with yarrow and honey. The blade went deep but missed anything vital. You were lucky." "Lucky," Kara repeated, the word bitter in her mouth. Lucky that her clan had been attacked. Lucky that she had been separated from her family. Lucky that she had wandered half-dead into the territory of a human who apparently had not gotten the message that orcs were monsters to be killed on sight. "How long was I unconscious?" "Few hours. It is early evening now." She finished the soup and set down the spoon, studying him as he moved about the kitchen. He was younger than she had first thought, probably close to her own age of 22 or 23. There was a scar on his left forearm, old and faded, and his hands had the calluses of someone who worked with them constantly. A farmer, he had said, and everything about the place confirmed it. Why? She asked again. Truly, humans do not help orcs. We are enemies, have been for generations. Caleb turned to face her, leaning back against the stone hearth. My father was a soldier, he said quietly. He fought in the border wars 20 years ago, came home full of stories about orc savagery and human righteousness. But he also came home with nightmares that made him scream in the night and a drinking habit that killed him before I turned 15. He crossed his arms, his expression distant. I spent my whole childhood hearing about how orcs were monsters. Then I spent my teenage years watching what war did to the man who had fought them, watching it eat him alive from the inside. And I realized that maybe the real enemy was not orcs or humans, but the hate that made us keep killing each other. Kara absorbed this, turning it over in her mind. So you helped me to prove some philosophical point? No. He met her eyes, and there was steel beneath the kindness. I help you because you are a person who was hurt and asked for water. It really is that simple. She wanted to argue, to push back against his naive idealism, but exhaustion was pulling at her again. The food had helped, but her body was demanding more rest. I will leave in the morning, she said, standing slowly. I thank you for the aid. You will leave when the wound has had time to heal properly, Caleb countered. Which, according to my admittedly limited medical knowledge, will be at least a week, maybe 2. I cannot stay here that long. Why not? You running from something specific or just running in general? Kara hesitated. The truth was that she had nowhere to go, no destination in mind beyond away. Her clan was scattered, her brother vanished into the mountains, and she had no idea if any of her family had survived the attack. But admitting that felt like weakness. My people were attacked, she said finally. I do not know if any still live. I need to search for them. And you will search much more effectively once you are not half dead from blood loss and infection, Caleb pointed out. Look, I understand wanting to keep moving, but you made it this far. A few more days to heal properly will not change anything except your chances of actually surviving long enough to find your family. He had a point, much as she hated to admit it, and the bed in the other room was calling to her with siren song strength. 1 week, she said. Then I go. Deal. He smiled, a quick flash of warmth that transformed his face. Your room is back through there. I will sleep out here. There is a chamber pot under the bed and a basin with clean water on the dresser. If you need anything, just call. Kara nodded and made her way back to the small bedroom, every step a reminder of how close she had come to dying alone in the forest. She eased herself back onto the bed, marveling at the simple comfort of it, and pulled the blanket up to her chin. Through the partially open door, she could hear Caleb moving about, the soft sounds of him banking the fire and setting the house to rights for the night. It should have made her nervous, being vulnerable in a strange place with a human she had just met. Instead, she felt something she had not experienced in days, safe. She fell asleep trying to figure out if that feeling was going to get her killed. The next morning, Kara woke to sunlight streaming through the window and the smell of something cooking. She lay still for a moment, taking stock of her body. The pain in her side was definitely better, a dull ache rather than the sharp agony of before. Her head felt clearer too, the fever fully broken. She rose and used the basin to wash her face and hands, then ventured out into the main room. Caleb was at the stove frying eggs in a cast iron pan. He glanced over his shoulder when she appeared. Morning. How do you feel? Better. She moved to the table and sat watching him work. You are good at this, cooking, I mean. Had to learn. Living alone means you either figure out how to feed yourself or you starve. He slid eggs onto 2 plates, added slices of bread and some kind of preserved fruit, and brought them to the table. I hope you like eggs. I have chickens, so they feature heavily in the menu around here. Kara picked up her fork, studying the food. It looked and smelled good, simple but well prepared. My mother was the cook in our family, she said, surprising herself with the admission. She could make anything taste good, even the tough roots we dug up during lean winters. Is she? Caleb trailed off, the question hanging between them. I do not know. I hope so, but I do not know. Kara took a bite of egg to avoid having to say more. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. When the plates were empty, Caleb stood and began clearing them away. I need to tend the animals and do some work in the fields, he said. You should rest, let your body heal. But if you are feeling up to it, you are welcome to look around, get some fresh air. Just do not overdo it. I am not an invalid. No, but you are recovering from a serious wound, and if you tear those stitches, I will be very annoyed at having to redo my work. He said it lightly, but there was real concern underneath. Kara found herself almost smiling. I will be careful. That is all I ask. He headed out, leaving her alone in the house. Kara took her time exploring, examining the small but well-kept space. The main room held a kitchen area, a table with chairs, a comfortable-looking armchair near the fireplace, and shelves lined with books. The bedroom she had slept in was clearly a guest room, simply furnished but clean. A ladder led up to a loft above, which she guessed was where Caleb slept. Everything was neat without being fussy, practical but with small touches that spoke of someone who took pride in their home. A colorful woven rug near the fireplace, dried flowers hanging from a beam, a carved wooden box on one of the shelves that looked like it might be for keepsakes. She found herself curious about him, this human who lived alone on a remote farm and helped injured orcs without demanding anything in return. It did not fit with anything she had been taught about humans, about their greed and their cruelty and their hatred of her kind. Moving to the window, she looked out at the farmyard. Caleb was in the chicken coop, scattering feed, and she could hear him talking to the birds in a gentle, running commentary that made something in her chest feel oddly tight. She spent the day resting as ordered, reading one of his books, a collection of farming techniques that was surprisingly interesting, and watching through the window as he went about his work. In the late afternoon, he came back in and checked her bandages, his touch gentle and professional as he examined the wound. Healing well, he announced. No signs of fresh infection. Keep taking it easy and we should be able to remove the stitches in about a week. You know medicine as well as farming, basics, learned from my mother before she passed. And necessity is a good teacher when you live this far from the nearest doctor. He secured the fresh bandage and stepped back. You hungry? I was thinking of making stew. I can help. You should rest. I have been resting all day. Let me do something useful or I will go mad. He considered this, then nodded. All right, you can chop vegetables, but if you start feeling dizzy or the wound starts bleeding again, you sit down immediately. Understood? Understood. They worked together in the kitchen, falling into an easy rhythm. Kara chopped carrots and potatoes while Caleb prepared the meat and got the pot ready. He told her about the farm, how it had been his parents' place, and he had inherited it when his mother died 2 years ago. She told him about her clan, the way they moved with the seasons through the mountains, following game and gathering what the land provided. Sounds like a hard life, Caleb said, stirring the pot. It was, but it was ours. We were free. Kara set down the knife, her hand stilling. The soldiers who attacked us, they did not even give warning, just came at dawn and started killing. My brother, he is only 16. I do not even know if he made it out. What is his name? Roth. He is strong, a good hunter, but he is young and he was terrified. She picked up the knife again, needing something to do with her hands. I should be out there looking for him, not hiding in a human farmhouse eating stew. You are not hiding. You are healing so that you will be able to actually help him when you find him. Caleb added the vegetables she had chopped to the pot. And for what it is worth, I am sorry that happened to your clan. Whatever the history between our peoples, attacking at dawn without warning is just murder. Kara looked at him, at the genuine sympathy in his expression, and felt some of the walls she had built around herself crack just a little. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for saying that, for believing me." "Why would not I believe you?" "Because I am orc, and you are human, and your people have been telling stories about orc savagery for generations. It would be easier to assume we deserved it." Caleb was quiet for a moment, his attention seemingly focused on the stew. "My father told me a story once when he was deep in his cups," he said finally. "About a battle where his unit cornered a group of orc civilians, mostly women and children who had gotten separated from their fighters. His commander ordered them to attack anyway. Said orcs were orcs, did not matter if they were armed or not. He stirred the pot with more force than necessary. My father refused, stood down and told his men to stand down. They let the orcs go, and my father got demoted for it, lost his rank and most of his friends in the unit. But he said it was the only decision from the whole damn war that let him sleep at night." Kara absorbed this story, understanding what it meant that he was sharing it. "Your father sounds like he was a good man, underneath the pain." He was. The war just broke something in him that never healed right. Caleb tasted the stew and added a pinch more salt. "Anyway, point is, I learned young that there is a difference between what people say about others and what is actually true. So yes, I believe you. And I am sorry for what your clan suffered." They lapsed into silence again, but it was a different quality now, warmer somehow. When the stew was ready, they ate together at the table, and Kara found herself relaxing in a way she had not expected to be possible in human company. Over the next few days, a routine established itself. Caleb would rise early and tend to the farm work, while Kara rested and regained her strength. In the afternoons, they would work together on small tasks, preparing meals or mending tools, and in the evenings they would talk. She learned that he was 24, that he had been running the farm alone since his mother's death, that he was considered odd by the other farmers in the region for his solitary ways and his refusal to participate in the local militia. He learned that she had trained as a scout for her clan, that she loved the high mountain meadows in summer when the wildflowers bloomed, that her greatest fear was being alone. On the fourth day, Kara felt strong enough to venture outside properly. Caleb showed her around the farm, introducing her to the chickens, who regarded her with suspicious eyes, and the 2 goats, who seemed entirely unconcerned by her green skin and tusks. "They are good judges of character," Caleb said, watching one of the goats butt its head against Kara's hand, demanding scratches. "Animals do not care about politics or prejudice, only about who feeds them and scratches behind their ears." "Exactly." She found herself laughing, a real laugh that surprised them both. It felt good, like stretching a muscle that had been cramped for too long. That evening, Caleb changed her bandages again and declared that the wound was healing beautifully. "Another few days and we can take out the stitches," he said. "You have been following orders well." "I am a model patient," Kara replied dryly. "You are stubborn and headstrong, but you are also smart enough to know when to listen to advice, which is better than most patients I have dealt with." He secured the clean bandage and sat back. "How does it feel?" "Much better. Almost no pain unless I move wrong." She pulled her borrowed shirt back on, one of Caleb's that was too large on her but clean and comfortable. I owe you a debt I cannot repay. You do not owe me anything. In my culture, a life debt is serious. You saved my life, Caleb. That means something. He met her eyes, his expression serious. If you feel you owe me something, then pay it forward. Someday, when you find someone who needs help the way you needed it, help them. That is all the payment I want. Kara nodded slowly. You really are strange for a human. I will take that as a compliment. On the 6th day, Kara woke to the sound of rain pounding on the roof. She rose and found Caleb already up, standing at the window and frowning at the downpour. Problem? She asked. The north field needs weeding, and I was planning to get to it today, but this rain is going to make it impossible to work out there. He turned from the window, running a hand through his hair. Which means I will be underfoot all day. Sorry in advance. I think I can manage to tolerate your company for a day, Kara said, allowing a hint of amusement into her tone. They spent the morning doing indoor tasks, Caleb mending harnesses, while Kara worked on patching some of his clothes that had seen better days. She had always been good with a needle, and the familiar work was soothing. You are skilled at that, Caleb observed, watching her neat stitches. My mother taught me, said that being able to mend clothes and gear was as important as knowing how to hunt. Kara finished the seam she was working on and held up the shirt, examining her work. In the clan, everyone contributes what they can. Gender does not matter as much as skill and willingness to work. Sounds more enlightened than human society in that regard. Here, women are expected to cook and sew and have babies, while men are supposed to farm and fight. Anyone who steps outside those roles gets talked about. He set aside the harness he had been working on. I get plenty of comments about being unmarried at my age and living alone. Apparently it is not natural. Is it not lonely? The question slipped out before Kara could stop it. Caleb was quiet for a moment. Sometimes, he admitted, but I have tried to court a few women from the nearby farms and it never felt right. They all wanted me to be something I was not, more ambitious or more social or more traditional. I would rather be alone and honest than partnered and pretending. Kara understood that sentiment more than she wanted to admit. In my clan, there was a male who wanted to court me. Strong hunter, good provider, everything that should have made him a good match. But when he looked at me, all he saw was a female who would bear strong children and cook his meals. He did not see me. What happened? I challenged him to a fight. Put him on his back in front of the whole clan and told him I was not interested. She grinned at the memory. He was so shocked that a female could beat him that he did not even get angry, just confused. Caleb laughed, a warm sound that filled the small house. I would have paid good money to see that. It was very satisfying. The rain continued throughout the day, and they fell into easy conversation, sharing stories and learning about each other. Kara told him about the time she had tracked a mountain cat for 3 days just to prove she could. And he told her about the year the entire wheat crop had failed, and he had survived on nothing but potatoes and determination. As evening approached and they worked together to prepare dinner, Kara realized with a start that she was happy. It was such an unexpected feeling, given everything that had happened, that it stopped her in her tracks. You all right? Caleb asked, noticing her stillness. Yes, she said slowly. I just realized that I am enjoying myself. It seems wrong somehow when I do not know what happened to my family. It is not wrong to find moments of peace, even in difficult times, maybe especially in difficult times. He set the pot on the table and gestured for her to sit. Your brother Roth, he would want you to take care of yourself, would not he? To heal and eat and find reasons to smile. Yes, he would. Kara sat, accepting the bowl he handed her. He always said I was too serious, that I needed to laugh more. Smart kid. They ate in comfortable silence, and after they had cleaned up, Caleb pulled out a battered board and a bag of carved pieces. "You know how to play Siege?" he asked. "No. Is it a game? Strategy game? I will teach you." He set up the board and explained the rules, how each piece moved and what the objective was. Kara picked it up quickly, her strategic mind enjoying the challenge. They played 3 games, Caleb winning the first 2 and Kara managing a victory in the third. "You are a natural," he said, resetting the pieces. "Most people take weeks to get the hang of it. I was trained to think strategically, to anticipate enemy movements. This is just a different kind of battlefield." They played late into the evening, the rain a steady rhythm on the roof, the fire crackling in the hearth. At some point, Kara realized that she felt more at home in this small human farmhouse than she had felt anywhere since the attack. It was a dangerous feeling. On the 7th day, true to his word, Caleb removed the stitches. Kara sat still as he worked, his fingers gentle and precise. The wound had healed into a pink scar, still tender but no longer a threat. "There," he said, tying off the last stitch and sitting back. "You are officially mended." "How does it feel?" "Good. Strange, but good." Kara touched the scar carefully, feeling the ridged tissue. "Thank you. I know I have said it before, but truly thank you. You are welcome." He stood and moved to put away his medical supplies. "So, what now?" "You are healed enough to travel if you want." The question hung in the air between them. Kara had said she would leave after a week, and the week was up. She should go, should set out to search for her brother and what remained of her clan. That was the plan. But the thought of leaving made her chest feel tight, and she found herself searching for reasons to stay. "I could help with the farm work for a while," she heard herself say, "as payment for your care. You said the north field needs weeding, and there must be other tasks that would go faster with 2 people. Caleb turned to look at her, and something shifted in his expression, a flash of relief quickly masked. "You do not owe me labor, I know, but I am offering anyway if you want the help." He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. "I would like that. The company, I mean, and the help, both. Then I will stay a while longer, until the farm work is caught up." It was a flimsy excuse, and they both knew it, but neither of them acknowledged it. Instead, Caleb suggested they start with the north field the next day, and Kara agreed, and that was that. The decision made, something loosened in the air between them. That evening they worked together to prepare a special dinner, roasting a chicken and making fresh bread, celebrating Kara's recovery. They talked and laughed, and when Caleb produced a bottle of honey wine he had been saving, they toasted to new beginnings. "To unlikely friendships," Caleb said, raising his cup. "To healing," Kara replied, touching her cup to his. They drank, and the wine was sweet and strong, warming her from the inside. Kara felt loose and comfortable, the walls she usually kept around herself lowered by the wine and the company and the simple pleasure of being alive and safe. "Can I ask you something?" Caleb said after a while, his words slightly soft at the edges. "You can ask. I might not answer." "Fair enough." He swirled the wine in his cup, watching the liquid catch the firelight. "Do you have someone, back with your clan, I mean, someone waiting for you?" "No, I told you about the hunter I rejected. There has been no one since." She studied him. "Why do you ask? Just curious." But there was color in his cheeks that had not been there before, and he would not quite meet her eyes. Kara felt something flutter in her chest, a feeling she did not want to name. "What about you? You said you tried courting some local women." "Tried being the important word." "It never went anywhere." He finally looked at her, and his eyes were very blue in the firelight. "I was starting to think maybe I was just not meant for that kind of connection, that maybe I was too different, too strange." "You are strange," Kara agreed, "but that is not a bad thing." "No, no." Strange is better than cruel, better than closed-minded. Strange means you think for yourself. I will definitely take that as a compliment this time. They finished the wine and banked the fire, and when Kara went to bed that night, she lay awake for a long time, thinking about the way Caleb's eyes had looked in the firelight and the warmth in his voice when he spoke to her. She was in dangerous territory, she knew. Developing feelings for a human was foolish at best, potentially devastating at worst. There was no future in it, no way it could end well. She should leave, should protect herself before this went any further. But the next morning, when Caleb asked if she was ready to tackle the North Field, she said yes without hesitation. They worked side by side in the field, pulling weeds under the warm sun. It was hard work, but Kara had missed physical labor, the simple satisfaction of a task well done. Caleb worked steadily beside her, and they fell into a rhythm, moving down the rows together. At midday, they broke for lunch, sitting in the shade of an old oak tree at the field's edge. Caleb had brought bread and cheese and apples, and they ate while watching clouds drift across the sky. "I like this," Kara said, surprising herself with the admission. "The work, the quiet, I like it. It is a good life," Caleb agreed. "Simple but good. There is something satisfying about growing things, about working with the land instead of against it. My people, we never stayed in one place long enough to farm. We followed the game, the seasons. But I can see the appeal of this, of having a place that is yours. It could be yours too, you know, if you wanted." He said it casually, not looking at her, but she could feel the weight of the offer. "Caleb, I am not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I just mean you are welcome to stay as long as you want, not as payment or obligation, but because I like having you here. You are good company and you work hard, and I sleep better knowing you are under my roof and safe." Kara's heart was beating too fast, and she did not know what to say. The offer was tempting, more tempting than it should be. To have a place to stay, to be safe, to spend her days working beside someone who made her laugh and her evenings talking by the fire. It sounded like a dream. But it was not her dream. Her dream was to find her brother, to reunite what was left of her clan, to return to the mountains and the life she had always known. Was not it? "I do not know what to say," she admitted. "You do not have to say anything, just think about it." He stood, brushing crumbs from his trousers. "Come on, we have a lot more rows to weed." They worked through the afternoon, and Kara found herself watching Caleb when he was not looking, noticing things she had not let herself notice before. The way his muscles moved under his shirt when he reached for a weed. The sound of his laughter when she made a dry comment about a particularly stubborn thistle. The gentleness in his hands when he showed her a bird's nest they had uncovered, carefully moving it to a safer spot. By the time they finished for the day, Kara's mind was a tangle of thoughts and feelings she could not sort through. That evening, as they prepared dinner, a knock came at the door. Caleb frowned, glancing at Kara. "I am not expecting anyone. Go to your room and stay quiet." Kara nodded, slipping into the small bedroom and pulling the door mostly closed. Through the crack, she could see Caleb open the front door. "Caleb Garrison." The voice was male, authoritative. "That is me. What can I do for you? I am Sergeant Morrow with the regional militia. We are looking for an orc, female, early 20s, likely injured. She was spotted in this area about a week ago. You have seen anything?" Kara's blood ran cold. She pressed herself against the wall, hand going to her knife. "An orc." Caleb's voice was perfectly casual, curious but not concerned. "No, I have not seen anyone like that. What did she do?" "She is from a clan we engaged in the northern mountains. Dangerous criminal. If you see her, do not approach. Send word immediately. Will do. Anything else? Just keep your eyes open. We have patrols in the area, so you should be safe enough, but keep your door locked at night. Appreciate the warning." Kara heard the door close and the sound of boots on the porch steps. She waited until Caleb appeared in the doorway before letting out the breath she had been holding. "Dangerous criminal," she said flatly. "Convenient how defending yourself and your family becomes criminal when you are orc." Caleb's jaw was tight with anger. "You heard him. They have patrols in the area. We need to be careful. I need to leave. I am putting you in danger by being here. You are not going anywhere while there are patrols searching for you. That is a good way to get caught." He moved to the window, checking the yard. "We will need to keep you inside for a few days, at least until they move on to search other areas. Caleb, if they find me here, they will arrest you too, or worse. Then we will make sure they do not find you." He turned to face her, and his expression was fierce. "I am not turning you out to be hunted like an animal. We will figure this out." Kara wanted to argue, wanted to insist that she could take care of herself, but the truth was that she was scared. The thought of being caught, of being dragged back to face whatever justice the humans thought orcs deserved, made her feel sick. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. "You could make your life so much easier by just turning me in." "Easier does not mean right." He crossed the room to stand in front of her. "You are my friend, Kara, and I protect my friends, friend." The word should have been comforting, but instead it made her chest ache with a longing for something more. "Thank you," she managed, "for everything." The next few days were tense. Kara stayed inside, away from the windows, while Caleb went about his normal routine, trying not to do anything that would seem suspicious. He saw militia patrols twice more, men on horseback riding the roads, and each time he came back to the house to find Kara hidden in her room, knife in hand, and ready to fight if needed. On the third day of this self-imposed imprisonment, Caleb came in from the fields earlier than usual, his expression troubled. "What is wrong?" Kara asked immediately. "I heard two of the patrol talking at the boundary of my property. They are planning to search all the farms in the area, house by house. They will be here tomorrow, probably around midday." Kara felt the blood drain from her face. "Then I have to leave tonight. And go where? The whole region is crawling with patrols." "You would not make it a mile before being spotted." Caleb paced the room thinking, "We need a better plan." "There is no better plan. I cannot hide here, not if they are going to search the house." "The cellar," Caleb said suddenly. "There is a root cellar under the kitchen. It is accessed through a trapdoor under the rug. If we move enough supplies down there, it would look like just a normal storage area. But there is a space behind the shelves, built into the wall. My father used to hide his valuables there. You could fit, and they would not find you unless they were specifically looking for a hidden space. It was risky, but it was better than nothing." Kara nodded. "Show me." They spent the evening preparing. Caleb moved the rug and opened the trapdoor, revealing a ladder down into a cool, dark space. He brought a lamp down and showed her the hidden nook behind the shelves, a space just big enough for a person to squeeze into if they were careful. "You will need to be completely silent," he warned. "The cellar is right under the kitchen. They will be able to hear any noise you make." "I can be silent. I was trained as a scout, remember, right?" He looked at her and there was worry in his eyes. "This is going to work. They will search, find nothing, and leave. And if they do not, then we will deal with it together." That night Kara barely slept. She lay in the small bedroom, listening to every sound, imagining tomorrow and all the ways it could go wrong. Just before dawn, she gave up on sleep and went to the main room, finding Caleb already awake and sitting by the fire. "Could not sleep either?" she asked. He shook his head. "Too much thinking." She sat down beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "Caleb, if this goes bad, if they find me, I want you to know that you have given me something precious. These past weeks, the safety and the kindness and the friendship. It has meant everything. I will not forget it, no matter what happens. Nothing is going to happen, he said fiercely. I will not let them take you. You might not have a choice. Then I will make a choice anyway. He turned to face her fully, and in the firelight his eyes were bright and intense. Kara, I need to tell you something, and I need to say it now in case I do not get another chance. These weeks with you, they have been the best of my life. You are smart and strong and funny and beautiful, and somewhere along the way I stopped thinking of you as a guest and started thinking of you as someone I could not imagine my life without. Kara's heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. Caleb, I know it is complicated. I know there are 100 reasons why this is impossible, but I am in love with you, and I needed you to know that before tomorrow. She should have been surprised, but she was not. Some part of her had known, had seen it in the way he looked at her, the way he always made sure she had the best portion of food, the way he smiled when she walked into a room. I love you too, she said, the words spilling out before she could think better of them. I've been trying not to, trying to tell myself it is foolish and impossible, but I do. I love you. He reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers, and the touch sent warmth flooding through her entire body. So what do we do with that? He asked softly. I do not know. But I know I do not want to lose you. Then we will find a way to make this work. After tomorrow, after the patrols move on, we will figure out what comes next, together. She nodded, squeezing his hand. Together. They sat by the fire as the sun rose, hands clasped, drawing strength from each other. When mid-morning came, Caleb reluctantly released her hand and helped her down into the cellar. He showed her once more where the hidden space was, made sure she had water and a blanket. Remember, complete silence no matter what you hear, he said. I remember. She caught his hand before he could climb back up the ladder. Be careful, always. He kissed her forehead quickly, a gentle touch that promised more later, and then he was gone, the trapdoor closing and leaving her in darkness. Kara squeezed into the hidden space behind the shelves, making herself as small as possible. The stone was cold against her back, but she barely noticed. All her focus was on listening, on controlling her breathing to make no sound. She heard the patrol arrive around noon, heard boots on the porch and Caleb opening the door. Voices, muffled by the floor but audible. Caleb sounding relaxed and cooperative. The sergeant, whose voice she recognized from his first visit, explaining that they needed to search the premises. Footsteps above her head, moving through the house. Her room being searched, she guessed, and then the loft. The voices grew louder as they entered the kitchen, directly above her. What is down there? The sergeant asked. Root cellar, just storage for vegetables and preserves. We will need to check it. Kara's heart stopped. She heard the trapdoor open, saw lamplight filtering through the cracks in the shelves. Boots on the ladder, someone climbing down. She pressed herself harder against the stone, not breathing, not moving, becoming a statue. The light moved around the cellar, and she could hear someone moving jars, checking behind things. Nothing down here but food, a voice called up. Check thoroughly. More movement. The light came very close to her hiding spot, and for a moment she was sure she was going to be found. But the shelves held, the shadows deep enough to hide her. It is clear, Sergeant, just a regular cellar. All right, come up. The light retreated, the boots climbed the ladder, the trapdoor closed. But Kara did not move, did not relax. They were still in the house, still searching. Another eternity passed. Then, finally, she heard the sergeant speak again. Everything looks in order here, Garrison. If you do see anything suspicious, you will report it, of course. Good man. We appreciate your cooperation. Boots on the porch again, the sound of horses, and then silence. Kara waited, counting her heartbeats, making sure they were really gone. When the trapdoor finally opened and Caleb's face appeared, she nearly sobbed with relief. "They are gone," he said, climbing down to help her out of the hiding space. "You did perfectly." Kara emerged on shaking legs and Caleb caught her, holding her steady. She buried her face in his shoulder, letting herself have just a moment of weakness. "I was so scared," she admitted. "I know, me too." He stroked her hair, his touch gentle. "But you are safe. They searched and found nothing, and now they will move on to other farms. We did it." She pulled back enough to look at him, seeing her own relief and fear reflected in his face. And then, because she needed to, because she had almost lost the chance, she kissed him. He froze for just a second, surprised, and then he was kissing her back, his arms coming around her and pulling her close. It was desperate and sweet at the same time, a release of all the tension and fear and love that had been building between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Caleb rested his forehead against hers. "I have wanted to do that for weeks," he said. "Why did not you?" "Fear, mostly. Fear that you would not feel the same, that I would ruin the friendship, that I was reading everything wrong." He smiled, a little shaky. "Turns out I was worrying for nothing. Turns out you were." Kara kissed him again, softer this time, savoring it. "So what now? Now we get you out of this cellar and have a proper conversation about what we want our future to look like." They climbed up into the kitchen, and Caleb made tea while Kara sat at the table, still feeling shaky from the close call. When he handed her a cup, she wrapped her hands around it, letting the warmth seep into her. "I need to find my brother," she said. "I need to know if he is alive, if any of my clan survived. I cannot just abandon them. I know, and I would never ask you to." Caleb sat down across from her. "But right now, with patrols actively searching for you, it is too dangerous to go looking. Give it a few weeks. Let things calm down. Then we can start searching more safely." Did you think I was going to let you go alone? I know the area. I can move through human settlements without raising suspicion. I can help." Kara felt something loosen in her chest. "You would do that, help me search for my family?" "Of course I would. They are important to you, which makes them important to me." He reached across the table and took her hand. "Besides, I have a vested interest in meeting my future brother-in-law," she laughed, the sound a little wet. "You are assuming a lot." "Am I?" His expression was serious now, searching. "Because I am all in, Kara. I love you and I want a future with you, whatever that looks like. If you want that too, we will figure out how to make it work. If you do not, tell me now and I will help you find your family and we will part as friends." Kara looked at him, at this impossible, wonderful human who had saved her life and opened his home and his heart to her. She thought about the life she had known before, the constant moving and the danger and the feeling that she never quite belonged. And she thought about the life she could have here, rooted in this place with this man, building something new. "I want a future with you," she said. "I am scared of it, and I do not know how we will make it work, but I want it." The smile that broke across his face was like the sun coming out. "Then we will make it work. We will find your family, and we will figure out a way to be together. I promise you that." Over the next few weeks, they fell into a new routine. The patrols had moved on to search other areas, and the immediate danger seemed to have passed. Kara was cautious about showing herself, staying close to the farm and out of sight when anyone came near, but she no longer had to hide in the cellar. She and Caleb worked together on the farm during the day, and in the evenings they would sit by the fire and make plans. Caleb had contacts in some of the nearby towns, people who might have heard rumors of orc refugees or displaced clans. He began quietly reaching out, asking careful questions, gathering information. Meanwhile, Kara taught him some of the tracking skills she had learned as a scout, showing him how to read signs in the forest, how to move quietly and observe without being seen. He was a quick study, and she found herself enjoying the role of teacher. Their relationship deepened in quiet ways. Caleb would reach for her hand when they walked together. Kara would rest her head on his shoulder while they sat by the fire. They shared kisses that grew less desperate and more familiar, learning each other's rhythms and preferences. One evening, about a month after the patrol had searched the farm, Caleb came back from town with news. "I talked to a trader who passed through from the north," he said, barely containing his excitement. He saw a small group of orcs, maybe 8 or 10 individuals, camped in the foothills about 3 days from here. He said there was a young male among them, late teens maybe. Kara's heart leapt. Roth. It could be Roth. It could be. I thought we could head out tomorrow if you are ready. I told folks in town I was going to check on some distant relatives, so no one will be suspicious if I am gone for a week or so. You are coming with me. I told you I would help you search. Did you think I was not serious? She kissed him hard, pouring gratitude and love into it. Thank you. For everything. They set out the next morning, Caleb with a pack of supplies and Kara with her knife and a borrowed bow. They traveled carefully, avoiding main roads and settlements, camping in the forest at night. It felt good to be moving again, to have a purpose beyond just surviving. On the third day, as the sun was starting to set, Kara picked up signs. Tracks, multiple sets, orc-sized. A campfire that had been carefully covered but was still recent. She motioned for Caleb to stay back and moved forward silently, using all her training. She found them in a small clearing beside a stream, exactly as the trader had described. 8 orcs, all looking thin and wary, sitting around a small fire. And there, on the far side of the circle, was Roth. He looked older than she remembered, his face lean with hardship, but he was alive and whole. Kara felt tears prick her eyes. She stepped into the clearing, hands raised to show she was not a threat. Every head turned toward her, hands going to weapons, but then Roth was on his feet. Kara. His voice broke on her name. Hello, little brother. He crossed the clearing in 3 strides and grabbed her in a crushing hug. Kara hugged him back just as hard, feeling the last of her fear and worry drain away. He was alive. He had made it. The reunion was emotional and chaotic. The other orcs were a mix of families from their clan and neighboring ones, all refugees from the attack. They had been moving slowly south, trying to stay ahead of patrols, looking for a safe place to settle. Kara introduced Caleb, who had followed her into the clearing at a respectful distance. The orcs regarded him with suspicion at first, but when Roth vouched for him, explaining that this was the human who had saved his sister's life, they relaxed slightly. That night, sitting around the fire with her family and her love, Kara felt a completeness she had not expected to find again. But she also felt the weight of a decision she needed to make. The next morning, she pulled Roth aside and they walked along the stream, talking. She told him everything that had happened, about her injury and Caleb's farm and the feelings that had grown between them. She told him about the life she was building and the future she wanted. So you are going to stay with him? Live among humans? Roth asked. There was no judgment in his tone, just curiosity. I want to, but I will not abandon our family. If you need me, if any of you need me, I will be there. Roth was quiet for a moment, watching the water flow past. The others are talking about heading further south, to the borderlands where there are rumored to be free orc settlements, places where we can live without constantly running from patrols. It is a long journey, but it might be our best chance at a real life. Will you go with them? I think I have to. The clan needs me, and I am not ready to give up on finding a place where we can live as orcs, openly and without fear. He turned to face her. But that does not mean you have to come. You have found something good, Kara, something rare. I am not going to tell you to give that up for duty or tradition. You are too wise for your age, you know that." He grinned, and for a moment he looked like the carefree boy she remembered from before the attack. Someone has to be wise in this family, and it clearly is not going to be you, falling in love with a human. She shoved his shoulder playfully. "Watch it, or I will put you on your back like I did that hunter. I believe you could try." They walked back to the camp together, arms around each other's shoulders. The clan would leave in 2 days, heading south. Kara and Caleb would return to the farm, but they would not be truly separate. They would find ways to stay in touch, to help each other, to remain family even across the distance. That evening, Kara and Caleb sat a little apart from the main group, talking quietly about what came next. "Your brother is a good person," Caleb observed. "Strong, smart, a natural leader." "He is. I am proud of him." Kara leaned against Caleb's side and he put his arm around her. "I am going to miss him terribly. We will visit when we can, and we will always have a place for him and any of your family if they ever need it. You really mean that, do not you?" "Even knowing it could bring trouble. Family is family, and if they are important to you, they are welcome in our home." He kissed the top of her head. "Speaking of which, I have been thinking, when we get back to the farm, there are some improvements I want to make. Maybe expand the house a little, add a second bedroom for when we have guests, or children eventually if you want that." Kara looked up at him, her heart full. "Children? You have thought about that? Hard not to when you are planning a future with someone." He looked a little uncertain. "Would that be something you would want? I know it is complicated with you being orc and me being human, and I do not even know if we can." "We can," Kara said softly. "It is rare, but it happens. Half-orc children. They often face prejudice from both sides, being neither fully one nor the other. But they are also strong and resilient and capable of great things. Then we will raise them to be proud of both halves of their heritage," Caleb said firmly. "And we will love them fiercely and protect them from anyone who tries to make them feel less than whole." Kara kissed him, slow and deep, trying to convey everything she felt. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "How did I get so lucky to find you? I ask myself the same thing every day." They returned to the farm 3 days later, dusty and tired but happy. Caleb started work on the house improvements immediately, and Kara threw herself into helping, learning carpentry alongside the farming skills she had already acquired. As autumn turned to winter, they settled into their life together. Caleb taught Kara to read and write in the common tongue, and she taught him some of the orc language. They developed their own traditions, blending human and orc customs into something uniquely theirs. Word came from Roth through a traveling trader that the clan had reached the borderlands safely and were settling in with a larger orc community there. He was well, he sent his love, and he promised to visit when he could. The local farmers slowly grew accustomed to seeing Kara around Caleb's property, though not everyone approved. Some refused to trade with him anymore, and there were mutterings about the unnaturalness of their relationship. But there were also those who saw how hard they worked, how happy they were, and chose to judge them by their actions rather than their species. On the first day of spring, exactly 1 year after Kara had stumbled onto Caleb's farm more dead than alive, they stood together in the small garden she had helped him plant and made promises to each other. There was no official ceremony, no priest or witnesses beyond the chickens and goats. But they spoke their vows with deep sincerity, promising to love and support and build a life together regardless of what challenges came their way. Caleb slipped a simple ring onto Kara's finger, carved from wood and polished until it shone. She gave him a necklace she had made from leather and carved bone, a traditional orc symbol of commitment and eternal partnership. "I love you," he said, "my fierce, stubborn, beautiful warrior." "I love you," she replied, My kind, impossible, infuriating farmer." They kissed as husband and wife, and the spring sun shone down on them like a blessing. Life was not always easy. There were still patrols occasionally, still prejudice and fear from those who could not see past old hatreds. But Kara and Caleb faced it together, building their farm into a sanctuary and their relationship into something unshakable. 2 years after their wedding, Roth came to visit, bringing news that he had met someone, an orc woman from the southern settlement who made him laugh and challenged him to be better. He stayed for a month, helping with the harvest and getting to know his brother-in-law properly. When he left, it was with promises to return and invitations for them to visit the settlement. 3 years after their wedding, Kara gave birth to a daughter. She had her father's blue eyes and her mother's green skin, small tusks just visible when she smiled. They named her Lyra, meaning Song of Hope in the old orc tongue, and she was perfect. Caleb proved to be a devoted father, walking the floor with Lyra when she could not sleep and making up silly songs to make her laugh. Kara watched them together and felt her heart expand with a love she had not known was possible. They raised Lyra to be proud of both halves of her heritage, to be strong and kind and unafraid. They taught her to work the land and to track through forests, to read books and to understand orc traditions. When other children or adults said cruel things about her mixed heritage, she learned to stand tall and respond with dignity, the way her parents had taught her. As the years passed, more travelers found their way to the farm, orcs fleeing persecution and humans seeking refuge from places that had grown too dangerous or too rigid. Kara and Caleb never turned anyone away who truly needed help. Their home became known along certain networks as a safe place, a haven where species did not matter and kindness was the only currency that counted. Roth visited regularly, eventually bringing his wife Mara and their 2 sons. The cousins grew up playing together during summer visits, learning that family was not about having the same color skin, but about love and loyalty and shared laughter. On quiet evenings when the farm work was done and Lyra was asleep, Kara and Caleb would sit together on the porch they had built, watching the sun set over the fields. Sometimes they talked, sharing the small details of their days. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, grateful for everything they had built. "You ever regret it?" Caleb asked one evening, 15 years into their marriage. "Giving up your clan life, staying here with me?" Kara looked at him, at the silver just starting to show in his dark hair, at the lines around his eyes from years of smiling, at the hands that had held hers through every joy and challenge. "Not once," she said honestly. "This is my life. You are my family. I chose this, and I would choose it again every single day. Even when the Hendersons refused to sell us grain last year because they do not approve of our marriage, even then, even through every hardship and every moment of prejudice. Because the love and the life we have built is worth more than any of that." She squeezed his hand. "Do you regret it? Tying yourself to an orc woman and making yourself an outsider in your own community? The community that matters, the people who are actually worth knowing they accept us. The rest do not matter." He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. "And I could never regret you. You are the best thing that ever happened to me." Lyra appeared in the doorway, 16 years old and beautiful, ready to head into town with friends. "I am leaving now. I will be back before dark." "Be safe," Kara called. "And remember—" "I know, Mother. Stay with the group. Do not let anyone provoke me into a fight, and if anyone gives me real trouble, I walk away and come get you or Father." Lyra rolled her eyes with the long-suffering patience of a teenager who had heard the same lecture 100 times. "I will be fine, I promise." She left, and Kara watched her go with a mixture of pride and worry that never quite went away. "She is strong," Caleb said, reading her thoughts. "We raised her to be strong and smart and capable. She will be fine. I know, but I still worry. That is what parents do." He pulled her closer, and she settled against his side with a contentedness that had only deepened over the years. "She has your courage and my stubborn streak. The world does not stand a chance." Kara laughed, and they sat together as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, and the first stars began to appear. The farm stretched out before them, the fields they had planted together, the house they had expanded to accommodate their growing family, and the guests who found refuge there, the garden where they had spoken their vows so many years ago. It was not the life Kara had imagined for herself as a young scout running through mountain forests. It was better. It was a life built on choice and love, and the stubborn belief that two people from different worlds could create something beautiful together. And every day, when she woke up next to Caleb and started work on the farm that had become her home, when she watched her daughter grow into a remarkable young woman, and welcomed friends and family into the sanctuary they had created, Kara knew that the day she had stumbled wounded onto this property had been the luckiest day of her life. She had been pretending her wounds did not hurt, trying to be strong enough to survive alone. But Caleb had noticed the blood soaking through her shirt, and instead of turning her away, he had offered her healing and safety and eventually love. He had saved her life in more ways than one. And together, they had built a life worth saving. As full darkness fell and the stars wheeled overhead in their ancient patterns, Kara and Caleb sat hand in hand on their porch, surrounded by the peaceful sounds of their farm, their family, their impossible and perfect life together. They had faced down prejudice and danger, overcome the expectations of two cultures that said they could not and should not work. They had built something lasting and true. And they had proved, beyond any doubt, that love was stronger than hate, that choice was more powerful than tradition, and that home was not a place or a people but a feeling you carried with you, wherever the person you loved was standing. The night grew late, and eventually they went inside, checked on their sleeping daughter, and retired to their own room. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new joys, more work in the fields and perhaps another traveler seeking refuge. But tonight, they simply held each other close and were grateful for every moment that had led them to this place, this life, this love. It was, in every way that mattered, a happily ever after. Not because everything was perfect or easy, but because they had chosen each other and kept choosing each other, day after day, year after year. And that choice, renewed constantly through small acts of love and large gestures of commitment, was the foundation of everything good they had built. In the years that followed, that foundation would only grow stronger. Lyra would eventually find her own love and make her own choices about what kind of life she wanted. More refugees would find sanctuary on the farm, and some would stay to help build an intentional community where species did not determine worth. The prejudice would slowly, painfully slowly, begin to ease as people saw the example Kara and Caleb set and realized that maybe the old hatreds did not have to define the future. But all of that was still to come. For now, on this perfect spring night 15 years after an injured orc woman and a kind human farmer first found each other, there was simply peace and contentment and the quiet certainty that love had won. And in the end, that was all that truly mattered.